I'm right now sitting on a 7,000-year-old tree. Mamish apikosisha tree. Let's talk about Pesach. In today's day, we don't have a carbon Pesach anymore, so the issues about how to make the carbon Pesach and all those arguments and fights that existed 2,000 years ago do not exist today. So we won't have to make a video about it, even though it was really unfortunate for all the people arguing about it. As one philosopher said, you're all so obsessed and conflicted about about your paths to God, and all of you think that your path is the only one, that all you have is the path, and you don't have God. The objective is to reach God, and whatever God is to people, maybe God means a sign of morality or goodness and kindness and justice. But you're all arguing about the paths, which he's speaking about modern day conflicts about religion. But back then the arguments were about the karbonis, and animosity was running high in Jerusalem, and they were giving cheap karbonis, sick ones, and the way they were flicking the necks off and arguing about the particulars, like the one who poured the tzdukim, and they were pouring the wine on the whether they would pour it on the ground, libations they would call it. And much of this you can get in detail if you take any class on the Dead Sea Scrolls. Today's Pesach, the issue and the nonsense is mostly about foods. Pesach you could eat anywhere you want, but you, as opposed to Sukkot, but you can't eat whatever you want, and depends what your tradition and custom is. So we're going to trace the source of the custom, where it comes from. And that will be a better way to understand the custom. It's always easy as we go to understand what was the cause of the effect. Where did it come from? It's known that it came from the Arizal. The Rambam was not makbid on these details about chametz. Arizal was a very highly obsessive, compulsive type of mystic. He was... He saw Eliyahu Navi in Egypt. He had a vision, not such a sign of robust mental health. He would come home on Shabbos, wouldn't speak to his wife. All this was because he was trying to fulfill Shabbos very perfectly, and he wasn't sure if he did it enough. And he would recite the Kiddush many times, and he wasn't sure if he recited it good enough, so he had to recite it again and again, and he had to do the wine again, and the Kiddush, and this and the that, and then he would remain in silence, and then he wouldn't speak to his wife. So he definitely had his hakpadas, and his obsessiveness about Shabbos, and his obsessiveness that led to his obsessiveness about chametz on Pesach. But did he have the Shabbos, and did he have Pesach? That's the question. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
I'm telling a Yiddish story.
I can tell. Happy Pesach?
Happy Pesach, yeah. So there's a story about Reb Nosson in Reb Nosson, the Talmud of Reb Nachman of Breslov, who almost all of what we have of Reb Nachman's sayings have come through the writings of Reb Nosson, things he transcribed, what he heard. They asked Reb Nosson of Breslov, what do you have food for Pesach? Do you have the matzahs and the wine and all these things that were expensive at the time? It was before the industrial, revolution with the machinery, so things were very expensive. Just everything, wine and the vegetables. So Reb Nosson says, yeah, have all that stuff, because the people who would contribute to people like him helped him out. But the Pesach, I don't have the Yom Tov Pesach. He meant it in a more spiritual way. So you could have all these akpadas on Pesach, but you may not be having Pesach, because Pesach is Cherus. Cherus means it's So I remember a story about myself, how I was in a hotel and I was making a coffee before going to the airport. I really needed this coffee, so all I used was hot water and the coffee, and the lady was going to offer me some milk, which wasn't Chalav Yisrael, and it was definitely not Kosher Pesach, and I said, no, thank you. I wasn't even thinking of putting in the milk or sugar or anything that didn't have a big stamp from Geshem Mendel Gedelik that it's Kosher Pesach. even though Gershom Mendel wouldn't even eat things that he put his name on it because he doesn't eat processed foods, right? Circular logic. So I remember that I believed it, and the reason I believed it was because I wasn't educated. Where is the source of it? Where does it come from? And the answer is very simple. I'm going to give a link below. Robert Sapolsky, a Frum Yid, who is today he claims he's not Frum and things like that because he's a big Anov, but he's a scientist and he does a lot of humanities stuff. Mostly he deals with animals, chimpanzees, but to him, humans and animals is the same study for him because it's just animals with brains. He doesn't study the soul and gods and ghosts. He doesn't study any of that, so he can't really do it because it's not testable. You can't dissect it, you can't measure it, you can't quantify. So he basically gives you a very good description of obsessive compulsive disorder in mystics. Now, mystics are those people who gave us in the Siddur all these things that we say 7 times, 20 times. The mystics themselves probably said these things 25,000 times. But just like and it does come from the East, from the Buddhism and those repeating Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, and then you have those beads where a lot of the Muslims have those beads necklaces, which those don't come from Islam, they come from religions prior, that existed prior to Islam, mentioning, chanting, calling out to gods, to ghosts, whatever you're looking for, whether it's protection or blessing, and you would count on the beads how many times you said it, and if you said it enough times in the day, it would satisfy your feeling and your hope and your need. So I want to make l'chaim. By the way, I can't smoke at home or around my house. I have a baby and a wife, and I can't drink in public. So what do? So the pshata is, the policeman I'm not afraid of. My wife I'm more afraid of. Why? Because the policeman, if he catches me and he gives me a ticket, but he's a stranger to me, he's not the love of my life, and it's not an issue that I'm going to have to deal with in the morning and in the night. So I take the alcohol onto the Shus Rabim and I take a drink, and if he chaps me, he chaps me. But this is a risk I could take. But smoking in and around the house is a risk that I can't take, especially the health effects that it could have on my child. So that's just like Pesach and Sukkot. So Pesach, we could eat what we want. We could eat wherever we want, but not what we want. Next issue is I went to do a Pesach Seder a few times. One of them was in Russia, and old Russian Yidden came with their little vodka, little bottles of vodka. This is a minhag that they had for many, many generations, or maybe, I don't know, I can't qualify. Maybe at one point they all kept, and they were living in a shtetl, and the halacha was civil law at the time, so nobody can break it. It was an enforceable law. So nobody could have mashke in a shtetl. This is in the times of the Tsar. But they had a minhag that, and Bogalubov said this at the Knesset Shluchim. He explained what Pesach was to him. He would go to his grandfather's house and they would drink vodka. And they were not believers. They didn't claim to believe in anything, but they had a tradition. The Goyim celebrated Pascha, and the Jews had it better because the Pascha in the church was fakakt, but the Pesach Seder, sitting and drinking and eating some matzahs, was more fun. So I tried to stop these people who brought vodka to the Seder, and it was the opposite of derech eretz. These are people who have a tradition, and I'm coming with my fakakte, uneducated argument from ignorance about whether or not the pshat of mashke being chametz or not, which is absolutely controversial. And I told them that they should or should not have this. And Robbie Lazar told the Bachrim, he didn't make it clear, he didn't say it in an educated way. He said to them, don't make any revolutions when you make your Pesach Seder, because these people had enough revolutions in Russia. This is what Robbie Lazar told all the Bachrim gathering in Moscow in the Sofitel, before they would go out and to the entire country. Boys like Tzviki Brunstein went as far as Chabadovsk, which was mamish close to the Sea of Japan. And he said to them, you don't have to make a revolution. What he meant is, don't enforce everything you learned in yeshiva doesn't apply. It's useless. Let them do what they do. We're just trying to get another form of power, to get that the Russian Jewish Federation should be under Lazar instead of being under some progressive Jewish group, which was something that we just were too naive to understand. So thank you for watching Sheni V'Chamishi. I hope I covered enough in this, what was needed, but the 10 minutes is up. One more point. It's from time management. They say the enemy of the best is the good things. So when you have some goal that you want to accomplish, and it's you have something that's considered the best, and then you have the good things on the side that are like interesting things, but they're gonna, you have to finish your smicha or something, and then you start studying interesting philosophy and Hassidism, and then you don't get your smicha. The enemy of the best is the good things on the side. Pesach, the objective is cherus. All these hidurim are the good things that you think they're good things. That's controversial. We could argue about that. If you have more time, I'll show you that it's complete nonsense, and its roots are in obsessive compulsive, which are not a sign of robust mental health. They are. But for now, if you want to consider them the good things, they're the enemy of the best, and those are the things that ruin Pesach, not just for you, but for people around you. So thank you for watching Sheni V'Chamishi, Kosher Pesach.